What if NASA accidentally created its biggest space rival? A single decision made decades ago may have helped transform China into one of the most powerful space nations on Earth. And the most surprising part, China did not copy NASA to get there. Today, China operates its own space station, land spacecraft on the moon, and is preparing for future lunar bases. But here is the mystery. For decades, China had almost no access to NASA's technology. It was not part of the International Space Station. It could not freely cooperate with NASA. It did receive shared designs, systems, or missions. Yet somehow China still became a major space power. So, how did that happen? And more importantly, why China did not copy NASA, despite having every reason to do so? The answer is far more fascinating than most people realize. It's a story about politics, missed opportunities, a scientific determination, and one decision that changed the future of space exploration forever. The common myth: many people assume China's space success came from copying other countries. At first, that idea sounds believable. But when you look closer, something does not fit. China's spacecraft don't use the same systems as NASA. Its satellites don't depend on GPS. Instead, China built its own global navigation network called the BeiDou navigation system. Its rockets use different engineering designs. Its docking systems are different. Even the inside of the Tiangong space station looks completely different from the International Space Station. These are not small changes. These are entirely separate technology. If China simply copied NASA, why are their systems so different? The answer begins with one man, the scientist America sent away. His name was Tianong. Most Americans have never heard of him, but he helped shape the future of space exploration. In the 1940s, Tianong was one of the most talented rocket scientists in the United States. He studied at Caltech and worked alongside some of America's greatest aerospace pioneers. He even helped create what later became NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. But the late 1940s, he was considered one of the world's leading experts in rocket science. Then everything changed. During the Cold War, fears about communalism were spreading across America. Quine was accused of having communist connections. His security clearance was removed. He was pushed out of sensitive projects. For years, he remained under government surveillance. Then in 1955, the United States deported him to China. What happened next shocked history. Instead of retiring, Quine immediately began building China's aerospace industry. Within a year, he established China's first missile and aerospace research institute. The foundation of the modern China space program had been created. One US military official later called his deportation the stupidest thing this country ever did. Because America did not just lose a scientist, it helped create an entire space program. China turns to the Soviet Union. In the beginning, China didn't want to work alone. During the 1950s, it partnered with the Soviet Union. Soviet engineers arrived. Missile technology was shared. Rocket designs were transferred. For a short time, China appeared to be following a familiar path. Learn, copy, catch up. But then everything fell apart. In 1960, the relationship between China and the Soviet Union collapsed. Almost overnight, Soviet experts left. Technical support disappeared. Projects stalled. Critical knowledge vanished. China suddenly found itself alone. And that isolation changed everything. Without outside help, Chinese engineers had no choice. They had to figure things out themselves. Self-reliance wasn't a strategic choice. It was survival. And over time, that necessity became one of China's greatest strengths. The wall between NASA and China. Fast forward several decades. The Cold War was over. Countries were working together in space. The International Space Station became one of the humanity's greatest cooperative projects. But China was left out. Then in 2011, things became even more restrictive. The United States passed the Wolf Amendment. This law severely limited direct cooperation between NASA and China's space program. No joint missions, no shared research, no coordinated projects. In some situations, NASA employees were even restricted from communicating with Chinese institutions. China remained excluded from the International Space Station. The separation became official. Two major space powers were operating completely independently. So what happens when a rapidly growing space nation is locked out of the global system? China made a bold decision. If it could not join the existing system, it would build its own, everything from scratch, building an entire space ecosystem. This is where the story becomes remarkable. China didn't just build rockets, it builds an entire independent space ecosystem. Launch vehicles, astronauts programs, satellites networks, deep space exploration system, moon missions, navigation satellites, space stations. Every piece had to be developed inside China. No shared blueprints, no borrowed architecture, no backup plan. And because there was nothing available to copy, Chinese engineers focused on creating systems optimized for their own goals. This is one of the biggest reasons why China didn't copy NASA. The opportunity simply was not there. Instead, China built technologies designed specifically for China's future. Now, NASA versus China. Two different philosophies. Today, NASA and China operates under very different models. NASA works with private contractors such as Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Projects often involved multiple companies, changing political priorities and long development timelines. The International Space Station is an incredible achievement, but it took more than a decade to assemble. China's approach is different. Its space program operates through centralized planning. Organizations like CNSA and CASC work under long-term national goals. Funding and planning can continue for years without being affected by election cycles. The result, the Tiangong space station was assembled in roughly 18 months. That's an astonishing pace. Not because one system is necessarily better, but because they are designed to accomplish different objectives. NASA focuses on international cooperation. China focuses on independence and speed. The power of starting late. Most people assume entering the space race late is a disadvantage, but sometimes it can be an advantage because China didn't have decades of old system to maintain. It didn't have to redesign around aging infrastructure. It could start fresh. Engineers call this leapfrogging. Instead of upgrading older technology, you jump directly to modern solutions. China's Tiangong space station was built as a digital-first platform. Its systems were designed around modern computing from the very beginning. The spacecraft can perform highly automated docking procedures. Its future rockets are increasingly moving toward reusable technology. In some areas, starting later actually allowed China to move fast, while others were updating old systems. China was building new ones. China's biggest achievements. Today, China's accomplishments speak for themselves. The Tiangong space station is fully operational and continuously occupied. The BeiDou navigation system provides global coverage as an alternative to GPS. In 2019, China became the first nation to land a spacecraft on the far side of the moon, a place that never directly faces Earth. Then in 2024, China achieved another historic milestone. It successfully returned samples from the moon's far side, something no other country had ever done. And the future plans are even bigger. China is preparing to launch the Tiangong Space Telescope, a powerful observatory expected to compete with some of the world's most advanced space telescopes. These achievements are not copied. They are independent accomplishments, built independently, designed independently, achieved independently. So in conclusion, when people ask why China didn't copy NASA, the answer is surprisingly simple. History didn't allow it. Political barriers did not allow it. International restriction did not allow it. And in the end, those limitations forced China to create something entirely different. What began an exclusion became independence. What started as isolation became innovations. And today the world is not watching a nation catch up. It's watching the rise of a powerful space competitor with its own technologies, its own ambitions, and its own vision for humanity's future beyond Earth. The next chapter of space exploration may not be written by one country alone. It may be written by multiple space powers, publishing each other further than even before. And that's a story the entire world should be watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible stories about space, technology, and the future of humanity.